Alright, hey guys, James here for 5Story22. So we're going to do another technique today. Today we're going to talk about glazes. Now, like I said before in the washes episode, a glaze is pretty similar. But with where a wash, you want the thin paint to run to the recesses and simply add depth. A glaze is also going to do that, but you also want it to change the overall color of the base coat or of the paint that you're applying it over on top of. So a glaze is, again, it's a thin paint. It's pretty thin. Similar to a wash, maybe a little bit thicker, and you can buy them pre-made now. Games Workshop makes them. I'm sorry I don't have one here, but you can actually use, you can even use washes to apply a glaze, or regular paints just thinned out real thin, because what you're doing is you're making the paint translucent enough so that when you put it over top of another color, you're still going to see some of that original base coat in there, but you're going to see it through the glaze, which is going to make it change colors. So if you look on the base here, there's a bright yellow. Now originally this whole thing was base coated through an airbrush with a bright yellow, and then what I did is I actually took and I gave it glazes, a red glaze over the yellow, and what it did was it turned that yellow on the skin more into an orange, as you can see there. So you can see the difference between that bright yellow and now that's more of an orange. Now I did this with a wash. I did it with a couple thick coats, and it still needs one more, but I just did it with a couple thick coats with a wash so that it would stay on top, and I put it on pretty heavy so it would stay on the flat surfaces, and I didn't thin out the wash at all either. So it helps to keep it from running into the recesses so much. You still want it to a bit with the glaze, not always, but you want it to change the overall color, and as you can see there, it did quite dramatically. See, there's some more of that regular yellow, that bright yellow. It's quite a bit different from the orange skin now that's on his arm. So it makes quite a difference. I'm gonna turn the slide off here to see if we can see a little better. There we go. That's a lot better. So you can see there that there's that bright yellow, and now his skin is quite an orange. Now the scales here that had an orange put over it, but I also put the wash right over that to darken those up. And like I said, it needs another coat. Let me grab a finished one here so you can see. As you can see there, it changed it quite a bit. The skin on him is pretty much orange, and the orange scales that I had put on there are quite a bit darker now as to with this one. So you can see the difference there. And you can see that, I mean, it's pretty much, there's no yellow left, but there's still some yellow on the raised, you know, it's brighter on the raised areas, which helps. You get the whole thing done at once. So what do you need to apply a glaze? Well, first of all, you need a glaze, and you can make a glaze out of just a paint thinned out, which we'll do here real quick. Grab a little cup here. Oh, there's a little bit of water in there. Dry that out. So you can make a glaze out of any color, really. So I'll grab this cup here, and I'm just going to grab a paint. Let me find paint here. Okay. Now let's say that you were doing like a leather bag. Say a leather bag, and you wanted to add some depth to it. You wanted to add some depth to it, but you didn't want to give it an overall wash, and you wanted to change some of the colors on the high parts as well. So you might decide, oh, okay, I'm going to do a glaze. So you take a little bit, I've got a darker brown paint here, Model Air, some burnt umber. Now this stuff's a little bit thinner than normal, so it's almost the consistency of a glaze. As you can see there, it's kind of thin. But what you do to make up a glaze then is you want to add some thinner, a little bit there, and you're also going to want to add some kind of medium to it to help keep the pigment in suspension. So I'm going to add some more of this satin varnish from Vallejo. And there you go. I got that. It's a little bit thicker than a wash, as you can see. Still pretty thin. And that's going to help me use the translucency of the paint to still be able to see what would be underneath it. So I'll change the color of the overall paint. Let me grab something here real quick. Here, I've got a simple Termagant, or Hormagant, I think, and I've got this plating here. It's done in like a kind of a khaki, a light stone-ish, bone-ish type color. So I'm going to take some of my glaze there. Let's say I wanted to kind of darken up some areas and lighten some up as well. So I'm going to use this bigger brush, that's okay. I'm going to use this and put it in down here. Let it run a little bit. I'm just going to do the whole thing here. So I'll do this whole segment. Kind of pull some of it off the tops, leaving more kind of down in the recesses or in the more in-depth areas. Run some more in between there, and pull some over the rest of it so it changes the whole color. What I'm doing is I'm giving it a glaze. I'm changing the overall color of the paint. It's no longer going to be a light bonish color. It's going to be more of a brown now. More earthy tone brown. As you can see there, the overall color has changed quite a bit. And that's a glaze. The glaze is, unlike a wash where you're just trying to get the depth or add shadows, a glaze you're trying to change the overall color, but at the same time you can be adding some shadows. Now, this is a pretty basic technique. You'll use this quite a bit, and actually in a lot of my paintings, most of the time when I am painting, I thin out my paint so much that it is more of a glaze. It's real thin paint, and I use the translucency of that, so I don't have to do a whole bunch of wet blending or blending at all, really. I'm more doing of a gradient using glazes on top of each other. And you'll find as you progress through your painting that you use glazes, and that a lot of very, very talented artists out there do use glazes quite often. It's a very, very common thing. So that's what a glaze is. Hopefully that defines the difference between a glaze and a wash a little bit, and gives you an idea of how to apply a glaze. So again, subscribe, like, leave comments, tell your friends if you enjoyed, and have a good day.